Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to the live premiere of our interview with Nancy Parsons on the Lead Different podcast. Nancy, how are you today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Man, I couldn't be better. I always enjoy when I get a chance to interact with people whom I admire and love to work with and who have done great things. And you fit all of those categories, Nancy. You're doing great things and continue. You've done great things. You continue to do great things in the world. I often share the story of how we met because we had the opportunity to meet at a conference where we both were speaking.
Yes.
I was at that time, I was the chief growth officer at the Y Institute, helping grow our coaching base. And I was
Right.
sharing the Y discovery with the world. And on the stage, hops this woman, dynamo of energy and knowledge and expertise, and talks about her assessment, which is the CDR assessment, which is your assessment, Nancy. And I was blown away by first of all, the detail that it brings, the depth of it. And although I still continue to use the Y discovery as the initial discovery, and the initial assessment I use with everyone I work with, I have been so impressed with the people that I have used the CDR assessment with, and the depth of detail that I get into the personality, the drivers, the risks that leaders have when I use it. So I'm so grateful that we had the opportunity to share a stage back almost I think a year ago in Colorado, right?
It was October, last year in Colorado. Yeah.
So thank you for what's new and exciting for you right now, Nancy.
Well, the exciting thing, of course, for us is CDR-U Coach, and so that's the debrief by the digital avatar that we have as an alternative to live coaching, really geared for people who typically aren't afforded executive coaching.
Right.
So that's been exciting to move into that technology space and just to be able to scale coaching, so everyone, so we can help everyone with their own self-awareness. So that to me is like super exciting. And then we're working with some very cool clients. Our clients are great, interesting, from different groups. I'm even working with like offshore women and, so on and on. So it's both client and then fun with this technology and just always the assessment piece. It's just great.
I want to give you an opportunity to explain that. And I don't know if we got into it in the interview, but CDR-U is amazing. I got to tell you, Nancy, you're so brilliant in your business model because not only do you, first of all, when you sign up to become a CDR certified coach, you're not just going to sit through some recordings. The actual founder, co-founder, and CEO of the company is actually going to sit with you and walk you through multiple sessions so that you get to know the assessment, you get to know how to interpret the results. Plus, you're going to be with other coaches, and you did a great job of that with us. The other thing you did is you gave us access to CDR-U Coach,
right,
which makes us it makes me an evangelist for sure for it, because it's amazing how accurate and good that technology is. And I'm sure it's going to get even better as we get better with AI, but already, and as it's, I experienced it a year ago when not anybody was doing that. You can pick your avatar, you can pick what the voice looks like and what the person looks like that's coaching you, but it gives you a thorough debrief on your results without you having to hire an actual coach, which, as you said, makes it easier for us to scale coaching. So if we go into a company where we're maybe working with an executive team, but they've got 400 employees and maybe 50 leaders that they want to train, we don't need them all getting a coach and going through that expense. Not that they're not worth it, but it's a significant expense. Can we use CDR-U Coach so they give them that boost that we all got when we learned our results? And I think it's brilliant.
Oh, well, thank you. I wish I could take credit for the idea, but it actually came from a customer asked us if we could do that. That back then was the U.S. Army Civilian University. They loved our assessments, but they wanted to be able to roll it down to their employees at large. So, but it is great because, like I say, it's personalized. No two are the same. When you get your feedback, and we have been making improvements too, Dan, even since you took it. Our voices are now AI voices, so they're a lot smoother, little less robotic than typical avatar. So that's all exciting.
Wow.
But it is. It's just I love the idea, because what happens is so many people make missteps, or they underutilize their potential. They don't reach their potential because they don't really know where their inherent capabilities are.
Right.
Studies show that only 10 to 15% of people are actually self-aware. Well, when you're looking at that, that means people aren't necessarily making the right job choices, or they're not developing in the best ways for themselves. This way, we help get them on track and really point them to, here's your gifts. This is what you're really good at. Here's some gaps. Here's some risks you need to manage so you don't, derail or flounder along the way.
Right.
Kind of thing. And for women, I've written 2 research-based books on women. What's holding women back are the risk factors, because their strengths are great as leaders. And even in some ways, they have some edges on men, right?
Right.
In terms of their strengths, but they tend to be what we call worriers. Whereas the men are egotists, upstagers, and rule breakers. So the men are aggressive, pushing forward under stress and conflict, and the women shut down and go inside their head. So this is why you need to be self-aware, so you don't run into that and hold yourself back or hurt yourself.
I love that you said that, because in the business, in the coaching business, self-awareness is so important. I gave a talk yesterday to a group of educators, principals, and we were talking about that very thing. And, self-awareness is it's where it all starts.
Right.
As a leader, you've got to know what your strengths are. You've got to know what your challenges are. You got to know who to surround yourself with, right? What is it that you're good at that you want to keep, and what is it that you're not good at that you want to delegate or have someone else help you with?
Exactly.
Or build an executive team with people that complement you.
Absolutely. That's so important. So important. And you'd be shocked at how many people really don't know what they're great at, where their gifts lie. So we help them with that. And even we work with veterans.
Right.
And we found that 55% of them have low career focus. So they don't know what they want to do with their lives. That's why they go in the military, to find themselves. But when they come out, they still have low career focus. So we help them get on the right track.
Oh, that's fantastic. And thank you for doing that for my fellow veterans. I know that this is extremely valuable. I've been a member of your community for about a year, and I have yet to meet anyone in that community who is not an outstanding person in their field and amazing at what they do. So thank you so much, Nancy, for this opportunity. Guys, what we're going to do now is switch over to the interview, so that you guys can listen to the great conversation Nancy and I had. We talked about a lot of things that I think are going to bring you lots of value. So if you're listening live, you can follow us on LinkedIn, on Facebook, or YouTube. We will see your comments. If you hear something in the interview and you say, hey, I have a question on that, put it in the chat, either on LinkedIn, on Facebook, or on YouTube. We'll see it. I'll make sure Nancy gets it. We're going to be chatting in the background in the private chat through our podcast provider, StreamYard. But don't forget to hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and comment. Please, we want to hear from you, and we want to share Nancy's wisdom with the world. So without any further ado, Sunil, let's play the interview, and Nancy and I will fall into the background and start answering your questions.
And challenges the status quo. Hosted by Daniel Dominguez, founder and CEO of Why Not Leadership. This show is your compass to becoming a better leader through the power of self-awareness. Good leaders foster teams that are engaged, empowered, and energized. Join us on this transformative journey as we equip you with the tools and insights to lead different. Get ready to challenge the ordinary and embrace self-aware leadership. This is Lead Different.
Subscribe now. Discover a new era of leadership. Lead different, because great leaders change the world.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Lead Different podcast. Today, we're going to introduce you to Nancy Parsons. She is the president of CDR Assessment Group and the co-author of the CDR Three-Dimensional Assessment Suite, no worries. which has been used to coach and develop leaders around the globe for 2 decades. She's a foremost expert in cutting-edge psychological assessments used for leadership and talent development. In 2019, she received the International Thought Leader of Distinction Award in Executive Coaching by the Miko Leadership Institute. She provides executive coaching services for the C-suite and leaders across all sectors. She facilitates strategic executive team development sessions and instructs custom, authentic leadership and women in leadership workshops. Additionally, she instructs and leads CDR executive coaches certification workshops and teaches advanced coaches programs. Her her innovative creation, CDR-U Coach, has been selected for the 2021 Stevie Awards for Women in Business and honored as the Gold Stevie Award winner for Best New Product of the Year. CDR-U Coach has also been recognized for the 2022 Houston Business Journal Innovation Awards. So it is my pleasure to introduce you guys to Nancy Parsons. Nancy, welcome to the Lead Different podcast.
Well, thank you. I'm delighted to be here with you, Dan.
Nancy, you know, one of the things I talked about in your introduction is the fact that you do lead the certification program for the CDR suite for coaches that are certified in that. And I had the pleasure of going through that training with you. And I just want to start by saying thank you so much for the professional and authentic and incredibly valuable way that you presented that training. I left there prepared for my first client, and I've since used it with a couple of my clients. Yes. And folks, you know, you're here because you're following a podcast that's called Lead Different because you want to do things differently. Let me tell you what Nancy has put together with the CDR assessment. And Nancy, why don't we start with that? Tell us a little bit about how you came up with the CDR assessment, what it covers. Let's give people an overview. But what I'll tell everybody listening, this is something, if you're a coach and you're working with leaders and you want to dig down deep and really understand them, help them understand themselves, you cannot go wrong with this assessment. So Nancy, tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So my business partner, co-founder is Kim Leverage. And she and I in 1998 developed our assessments. And, you know, our vision then was to revolutionize leadership by enhancing self-awareness to a whole new level. So we're still on that journey. And so we have the 3D suite covers personality characteristics in depth. It's a 5-factor model tool for people who kind of know these different tools. Then we have a risk assessment that measures inherent risks, personality based, that show up under stress and conflict. And last, we have our drivers and rewards that measures your passion, your energy, what excites you versus those things that deplete you. So it's been a wild ride. You know, Kim obviously specialized IO psychology, and you know, her background had been at Hogan Assessments for years prior to 1998. I had done some consulting there too, was trained by Bob Hogan. So we come from the best traditions, if you will, and research of psychological assessments. And that's why our assessments are so valuable and work well with clients. And our language is clear, it's different. So it's the results are pretty hard hitting. People love it. You know, one thing I help coaches with is understanding people love their own data. It's all about them, and it's really helps them understand themselves in the good times where their gifts are. And so many people don't even know what their gifts are, their true inherent capabilities. And then also the risks that can throw them off track. So, and then last and really important and often overlooked is, what do you love? What gets you excited? You know, what gives you a skip in your step? What kind of work are you really passionate about? That's what you want to go to, plus with your strengths. So we try to help our leaders and clients with that work. So it's exciting. It's been, I mean, I couldn't pick a better job than what I have, to be honest with you. I love working with the coaches. That's like my sweet spot. I also love working with the leaders and the C-suites. So there you go.
Yeah. And it comes across, Nancy. I will tell you, I spent, I don't know, I think it was probably 4 weeks or 6 weeks of training with you. 6 weeks of training, you know, multiple calls with a cohort. And first of all, quality of the people that I was in the room with was amazing.
Right.
But there's something to be said, and you mentioned it right now, about somebody who loves what they're doing. You were definitely in your sweet spot, instructing and helping us learn, bringing this assessment to life. And you're talking to someone who spent 4 years at the Y Institute. So
right.
I truly, you know, and the why, I start, all of my work starts with why. So we get to everybody's why, how, and what. And I love how that helps us understand people in terms of, this is probably in the CDR, it probably fits in the drivers, right? It's what motivates, it's what, drives people to do what they do. What I loved about meeting you at the ASEC conference in Colorado last year, when you talked about CDR, I often would have with clients, I would have a conversation. They'd say, you know, this is great. I understand my why, my how, and my what, but I want to know a little bit more. What if I want to go deeper? Well, when I saw Nancy's presentation at the ASEC conference, I said, That's what I'm looking for. That's deeper. That gives me the detail for those people, especially, if you're a coach that works with executives, that
Right.
you really want to go deeper into what is their character, what
Absolutely.
drives them, and then what are the risks. And I think I like how you introduced it, Nancy. You talked about character, drivers, and then risks. But you talk about risks after character, and then we go to the drivers. And there's a reason for that. You want to talk about that really quick?
That we do character and then risks, then drivers.
Yes.
Yeah, because obviously characters, all the strengths, gifts, talent one brings to the table, as well as gaps. And then the risks are kind of those cloudy day, those negative things that show up under ineffective coping behaviors under stress and adversity. So that's kind of, it's hard to hear some of it because we use very direct language. And then we lift them up, if you will, with what makes them happy. And often if they're doing more of what makes them happy, it alleviates the stress so we don't see the risks. So a lot of times when I'm working with executives, part of our action planning is you've got to be happy again. Let's get back to your drivers. So
I love that you said that because that's important. And as coaches, we often can get caught up in, hey, that's hard hitting information, right? And if we do it in the wrong order, right? So we get through the character parts, but we get into the risks. Those are tough conversations.
Yes.
And sometimes people aren't ready to hear that information, right? So just like with YOS, sometimes people don't want to hear that that's what they do until they have to sit with it for a while. But what I love about the CDR is, hey, let's go back to your happy place. I remember, so this is I'll do a little self revelation. I remember taking the CDR and calling Nancy and thinking, oh my gosh, Nancy, I am all of those things that the risk showed. Those are terrible behaviors that I display. And one of the things that you're really good at in the CDR training was, hey, that's who you are when you're under stress, when you're not in your ideal spot, Dan. And that's exactly right. So you want to get back to that place where your drivers say you're at your best so that you can love what you do every single day. Big kudos to you for developing that. So how exciting was it to win that big award in 2021 from Miko? Tell us how that process came about.
Yeah. So as you know, we developed CDR-U Coach, which is the first of its kind digital avatar coaching system. It actually debriefs in full the CDR 3D suite, those 3 assessments, and has 2 action planning modules. So you get to pick your avatar and it walks you through in a personalized way. No 2 are the same, your own results, and coaches you through it, gives you developmental tips and so forth. So we were excited about developing this new product, this new technology. Although we launched it during COVID, so that was a difficult time. So when you do something new and different, you put it to the marketplace as a test, to say, so we applied for that award and, we were thrilled that we received it, that we were honored with it. But, and again, we're still, even though there's a lot of AI digital coaching out there, no one is doing what we're doing. Most are just like just-in-time coaching tips, like your GPT chat, here's some suggestions, la. That's not what CDR-U Coach is. It's a personalized debrief. It is your personalized coach to help you understand yourself better. So we're just so delighted. It's exciting. People love it. And, so for us, it was just a big honor to get recognized when you put all that work in. And by the way, I have to also fess up, even though we didn't, it took me like over 7-8 years to get this done. It was the idea of a client. It wasn't my original idea. So we were working with the U.S. Army Civilian University, and their CLO, Dr. Leslie McDade Morrison, said, hey, can you come up with something digital? We want to use your assessments further in the organization, but we can't possibly provide live coaching. We have 10,000 employees who need this. So I just said, yeah, Leslie, let me get on that. And then here you go. Then we finally, during COVID, released and did our beta testing and have won a couple of awards. And so we're pretty excited. It is new, though. I have to still say that the HR environment is just now starting to open up. I think during COVID, they had their hands full with everything else. So they weren't ready for all the new technology, but we're seeing more doors open now. So we're pretty excited.
Well, one of the things that I love about what you're saying there, Nancy, is you opened during COVID. Well, we weren't doing a lot of face-to-face coaching, right? And
Yeah.
so virtual coaching was what a great fit for what a great time to launch something that was personalized. And kudos to you and your team for creating something that is personalized to every person.
Right.
I think today in 2024, we say, oh yeah, no big deal. We can personalize anything because AI has really come a long way. But you did this in 2021 when
Right.
it was like the birth of AI. I went through it. So one of the things you do when you become a CDR certified coach is you not only get coached by Nancy one-on-one, but you also get a CDR-U coach and you get debriefed. I was amazed at the accuracy and the way the results were tailored just to me. So it is not a, I think, I can't imagine doing this even with the Y discovery because there's hundreds of combinations of
Oh
why,
yeah,
how,
there's
and what.
the algorithms are like just endless, it seems like. So that's why because we do as you know, we do what's called configural scoring in there too. The coach isn't just they're not reading your report. They're helping you understand and interpret your report, and they're making connections between data, all these different data points. So that's where you say like the algorithms, the scripts are really cool. But the other thing that's interesting, it feels like AI because of the richness, but what it actually is, executive coaches have written all of those scripts. So people are actually getting coaching from live executive coaches delivered digitally. So there you go. So it's kind of exciting to me.
And again, kudos for a tremendously rich product. So there's a difference, right? And so for the coaches that are listening, when you become a CDR certified coach, you can deliver one-on-one. You get the results. You learn how to interpret the results, how to walk your client through it. But just as you said, you were working with a big client who couldn't afford to hire individual coaches for
Right.
10,000 employees, right?
Exactly.
So there's an economic benefit to using CDR-U Coach. So you can use it with as many employees as you have. So maybe take us through a typical engagement that either you've gone through or that one of your more successful coaches has gone through, because I can see in my coaching, what I do is I'm going to use it with all my executive leaders. If I'm working with an executive leader, a CEO, or somebody in the C-suite, this is something that I have to have after I have their YOS. But then I might do the executive suite, right? We're talking 5 to 10 people. We'll do those one-on-one and we'll do a group coaching. But then now that all those leaders want to take it to the rest of the organization, this is where CDR-U Coach comes into play. Walk us through that scenario a little bit so that the folks that are listening can understand what that looks like.
Yeah, so we still do, like you said, for the top executive team, or even maybe a layer or two below that, for C-suite, VPs to directors, we still do live coaching. Obviously, live coaching is always terrific when you can get it, when you can afford it. So we do the live debriefs and then either follow-on coaching and team development, group development. But then for those below, that's where we start rolling out CDR-U Coach so they can get their own feedback for development. And we know that millennials and Gen Zers crave feedback. In fact, they say they will stay at their company if they get some coaching and feedback. So it's so important that the companies use this, right? But the other thing that companies do and that the consultants do with the data, you can use our data then from CDR-U Coach, from the assessments, for things like custom training designs, for succession planning to get people in the right jobs, team formation, talent capability analysis. So it's not only for individual development, but it's to get the enterprise-wide people decisions right. Instead of today, we're not getting them right. We just move them around and make a lot of mistakes. Well, if you use good objective data, you know where the inherent talent lies. So you develop people congruent with their strengths and their drivers. And then you're going to be hitting on all cylinders. So what I love about it, because again, prior to CDR, I was in HR. I had those roles. Now you can get the people side of the business right. Not just, you're going to be helping each individual, but now you have, data and analytics to drive better decisions in your business about people. The other thing that, that has occurred to me as we have gone through this, you have an inventory in business of all, like you were in sales, you have an inventory of supplies, whatever you have, right? Nobody has an inventory of their talent. Now with CDR-U Coach, you can actually have an inventory of your talent, which is supposed to be your greatest asset. Well, now we measure it. We can help you understand, how do you best develop people? How do you upskill them? What are they going to be good at? What are they not going to be good at? Equally important, right? To make sure you're helping them. Anyway, so that's why we're so excited, because it is revolutionary in that way.
Well, Jim Collins talked about putting the right people on the bus in the right seat on the bus. So, and I like to liken it to a family, right? You can put the family on the bus, but you don't want the toddler driving, right? So we want dad or mom driving, and we want the musical person providing the musical entertainment on the bus. I think of the Partridge Family going down the road. You want the right people on the right seats on the bus. One of the things that is really impressive about CDR-U is, as you talked about, you can have confidence making decisions based on the CDR assessment because it is so thorough. I took it, but how many, there's 3 sections, and then how many questions per section, and then how many subsections, just kind of give people an idea of the richness of the results.
Well, the results actually in the character assessment, we have what we call 7 primary scales, but we have 42 subscales under those. Like under adjustment, we have 8 subscales that give individual differentiation. Because Dan, you and I could score, let's say 55 on adjustment, but it might show up or manifest very differently. Okay. Right. So that's where the subscales are so important. So it's very rich, the character assessment. And that one also, keep in mind, the reason you can use it for all these different decisions, they're scientifically validated, not just on test-to-test reliability, but based on performance in jobs. That's why you can use them to support your selection and your promotional decisions, okay? So they're the real McCoy. So you're actually adding science to that process. The risk assessment has 11 risks that we measure. So how people react under stress. And that can be factored into like 3 areas of coping. It's easier to think about this way. Do I move against? Do I use aggression under stress and conflict? Do I go into fight mode? Or do I retreat and avoid conflict? Or thirdly, do I seek affection? Do I try to make people too happy rather than asserting myself or something? So anyway, and last, of course, the drivers and rewards is pretty exciting. We have 10 facets of motivation with 5 facets under them. So when it is a driver for someone, we have 5 different ways that driver can show up. And it can be quite different. So for example, if fame and feedback is one of your drivers, there's things like, do you have a quest for fame, or do you just want to be respected in your industry? Do you like hanging out with famous people? Maybe it's more that, or do you, self-promote? Are you big at so there's all these different categories under each driver that helps delineate what that, fame and feedback, how it's going to show up or how important it is to you. Because just think about it this way, a quest for fame is very different than just seeking respect in your industry.
That's so very true. And fame and feedback, or being on stage, right? You and I think score very similarly in that we both love to present. We put us on stage, let us present, and we're going to be happy. But that's a different manifestation of seeking fame and feedback than someone who just wants to be respected.
Exactly.
Don't put them on a stage. They don't want to give the talk to the whole company. They want someone else on the stage.
Right. And they just say they're an R&D scientist. They want their contributions and their patents to be recognized and be respected in their scientific community. And it doesn't cost a company anything. The funny thing about drivers and rewards, it's really what incents your people to perform well. So, we have all these total rewards conferences and so forth. But the key is understand what your employees' drivers are and reward that. And, there's 10 drivers. Only 1 has to do with money. So the other 9 have to do with other things that often don't cost you anything or very little. So companies can do a better job at helping their employees want to stay and be excited if they know what drives them.
Well, when we look at employment statistics, I saw this just recently. Employees who are engaged are 21% more effective. So you can get a 21% bump in production just by engaging your employees, making them feel seen, heard, understood. Right. And you brought up the millennials, which is, I think those of us in our age category, Nancy, we see I've seen the good and the bad, and the good is really good. Those kids, those young people in the workforce have amazing ideas. They've got tremendous energy to get things done, but we have to engage with them in a different way than we were engaged with. I think we grew up in the era, hey, go join a company and do your best and beat out the competition, and then we're gonna promote the best of you. They want to be engaged. They want to feel like they're part of something that's bigger than themselves, and they want to feel like they're contributing in a big way. They get a bad rap that they want to be president tomorrow. I think there's a lot of there's probably some of that, but most of them really just are trying to balance life and work also. And so knowing what drives them helps us make sure we're rewarding them with the right thing. Don't give somebody a brand new car who could care less about a shiny new car, right?
Exactly. Or or there's people with low fame and feedback, since I mentioned that. So if you give them public praise, you bring them up in front of everyone, you have just humiliated that person. So your praise or your recognition can backfire if you don't know what people want. And I've seen that happen. I had a lady who was head of nursing for a medical center, and they did that to her at like the employee recognition day. And she told me in coaching, if they ever did that again, she would leave. She would resign. And this is their best leader, right? So you really need to know what people want. We automatically assume as leaders that people like what we like, but no, it doesn't work that way. It really doesn't. So it's really, it'll surprise you sometimes. And of course, people have all different, as I say, from scientific to amusement and hedonism to business and finance, as you know, to companionship affiliation. I just want to hang out with my friends, etc. So it's pretty interesting. And people are so diverse in their needs. You need to know what that is. And here's the other thing. It's going to help, as you say, employees be engaged and feel fulfilled and feel recognized in the right ways. And that is the retention tool. The drivers is the retention tool for an organization. And you can actually do that one separately. You wouldn't necessarily have to do the whole suite. But if you understand what drives, what motivates your people, then you honor those things. And they're going to perform and feel like they're in happy land, right? Because they're feeling great about the work they're doing. But when they get overlooked and not recognized in the right ways, they actually start to feel kind of depressed and down. And then they look for other jobs.
Right. Well, yeah. So let's look at those statistics. 1 out of every 3 employees is actively looking for work.
I know.
70% of them would consider leaving because they don't feel engaged at work. So this is an epidemic that we have to address. And what you're saying, Nancy, is you have a tool here so that you can engage with people the way they want to be engaged. Retention is such an important word. We're in a fight for talent, right?
Oh,
There's
absolutely.
only so much talent out there. And guess what? That Gen X, Gen Z, and millennials, they know that we're in a fight for talent.
Oh, absolutely.
So they're going to go somewhere. So how do you keep someone from leaving you for $10 more an hour, or in the case of a salaried employee, just one more week of vacation? Or
it might be if they have high amusement and hedonism, or you give them a week off if they have high humanitarian to go work in their favorite charity, and then you're going to donate to that charity or do something. That would be incentive for that person to stay over the money, because the company cares about what I care about. They're sponsoring, Habitat for Humanity or whatever it might happen to be if I have high humanitarian. So those drivers are so important. It can outweigh a little bit more. Here's the thing. Everybody needs a certain level of pay. People want to be paid fair,
right?
Be paid so they can pay their bills, etc. But then after that, it's kind of like Maslow's hierarchy, right? It's not the motivator anymore. It's these other things. Unless you're in banking and you have this high need to make tons of money. That there are some people like that, but that's not the majority of people. But that's what we think it is in business. That's how we treat it, because a lot of the leaders have that mentality. But many, many employees are motivated by other things. So that's what I'm saying. If you know what those things are, it often doesn't cost you nearly as much. It may take a little creative energy to come up with some different things. And we even have lists of what you can do for people who have these different drivers, what will make them happy. So I just find it's to me, I guess here's the thing. We have the solution and the data people need. We just don't have necessarily the megaphone to get out there enough to help people understand that, because we're still, boutique size, if you will.
Yes.
So,
well, one of the things you talked about, and I think it's so true, it's not one size fits all. So I've led teams at a really high level. I've led teams in the military, and I've led teams in corporate. And I remember making those mistakes saying, hey guys, we're all going to go do this really great thing for charity, because that's a driver for me. And that was a driver for a few of the people on my team. But I could tell that there were some people that were like, why do we have to go to the old folks home, right? That's not what drove them. Or we're, you know what, everyone, at the end of the month, if everybody hits their numbers, everybody's going to get $1,000. And so we're like, I don't want $1,000. Can I just get a half a day off to go spend with my kids? So, so understanding that it's not a one size fits all.
Absolutely.
Creating, I don't know about you, Nancy, but I also coach my daughter's track team. I've been coaching track and cross country for a long time. And I find this true in business as well as in athletics. What you do in front of the big group is important, right? When you address the general audience, but the coaching really happens one-on-one. It's those one-on-one conversations. And I think CDR provides such an amazing richness of how to understand the people you're having those critical one-on-one conversations with so much better than anything else you've ever done. So let's talk about the middle part of that, the drivers, Nancy, because I think that's where my tool that I use with everyone that we use at the Y Institute, that's where the why really fits in. So let me tell you guys about Nancy so you can know her a little bit better in our language. And I hope you all get to know her in CDR language, because if you're looking for that next level assessment, I highly, highly recommend the CDR. As a certified coach and somebody who's been working with Nancy, I can't recommend it enough. But Nancy's why is to find a better way and share it with others. She's an innovator. So, she mentioned her Hogan background. She took all that information. She took all that knowledge that she's gained over the years, over many years in doing that, and she found a better way to apply it. She created something that is virtual that leaders can use, and it's much more detailed. So that's her driver, what we call the motivation, better way. Her how is to make sense of things. I don't know if you've noticed it, but throughout this interview, she's taking stuff that's really complex. I mean, this is an assessment, hundreds of questions, hundreds of categories and subcategories, and she helps people make sense of it. That's how she finds those better ways. She takes things that are complex and challenging, make sense of them in order to find better ways. And then her what is contribute. Ultimately, what she does is she contributes to the success of others. Nancy, you've contributed to my success. I can tell you, I am so glad that you and I were presenters at that same ASEC conference in Colorado.
You've been an absolute delight. By the way, everyone, I just absolutely admire and adore Dan. His energy, the work he does, it's just contagious. So it goes both ways, Dan.
Well, thank you so much. The God brings us together for a reason, right? And I felt like, I was meant to drive to Colorado and be at that conference to present together. Mitchell Levy was there, who's another great colleague. There's so many people that I met that I'm still contact with, but you coming in and giving me that next step. And then it was almost a no-brainer. I want to get certified in that. So tell us about, I think in the next few minutes, I would love for you to share with the audience, what are the options that people have? A lot of our audience are coaches. So if they're interested in becoming certified in CDR, tell us a little bit about the training program so that they can make an informed decision. And then where would they go? We'll put it in the show comments so that people can access it. But tell us a little bit more about your program.
Yeah. So actually, right hot off the press, we have a new program too. So I want to talk about that. But the regular certification that Dan went through to be able to give feedback to your clients, CDR certification on the assessment tools, we have a series of 6 meetings, 90-minute sessions over 7-week period. We take a 2-week break in the last 2, so you can do coaching practice. So, and you have coaching before you go to the 6-week program. You get your own individual coaching feedback. During the workshop, you're going to take CDR-U Coach too, as well as we have tons of materials and resources for you. And so that's that program. And you're going to learn what do all the scales measure? How does it all work together? And then the coaching process, which is really important, and also ethics and those sorts of things. So that's all wrapped up for certification. And that one is normally $2,500. If you're a member of different coaching associations, we'll often get a discount. But hot off the press, we're doing a new coaching with technology, a hybrid training program, if you will, for coaches who don't want to become fully certified to do the debrief, but where you can actually use CDR-U Coach to do your debrief, and then you can use the data to help you with team development or ongoing coaching with your clients. So in other words, the client would take CDR-U Coach to become self-aware. Then you work with them from there. And in our training for this, you would take CDR-U Coach, and then I believe you would go through, I believe it's 6 hours of training with us to really orient you to the tools. So that's hot off the press, Dan. That's a new one. And of course, with our client organizations, we do coaching projects, we do team development. When we do coaching projects and RFPs, we pull in our certified coaches too. So just so you know, that can be a benefit to our coaches. Or a lot of, if we get different clients one-offs, we'll farm that out to our coaches often. Even for certification, we often use other coaches. You got me, but not everybody gets me, Dan. So there you go.
Well, I did, and I was so incredibly grateful to have you, Nancy. One of the things that you just talked about is doing that training. One of the things that is really cool that Nancy does is you're actually out there using the tool. You're actually coaching executive teams. You're actually coaching women in leadership. So when you're training under Nancy, when you're coming into this organization, and I have to give kudos to the rest of your team, Nancy, and I'll get, I know, Christine.
Yeah,
Christine for sure. They are on top of things. Just even getting ready for this interview, I got a couple of people checking with me and making sure that you had the right links, but they're also that responsive if you have questions. We had a couple of questions that came up with my first client that I took through, just responsive. And then I had a little bit of as happens with a new coach, I remember I had a moment where I'm like, I think I just need some help. I need to talk through this. And Nancy, I know that this won't always be the case as you grow, but for now, I know I was able to make a phone call. We got on the phone. We were able to talk through the issue that I was having, and I was able to confidently go back and visit my client so that we could have a more productive conversation based on the observations that you shared with me through all your years of experience. So thank you for doing that.
Yes, and I love that part. I even occasionally will hear from somebody who was certified in 2020 or 2000, not 2020, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Occasionally, so I love the interaction. We always, if you have questions as a coach, if you can email us, if you don't have time, you call or text, obviously, but we're going to help you through that. If I'm not available, we'll find somebody else, one of our other senior coaches, to help you.
Love that. Well, Nancy, tell us, we're getting close to our end time. What's the best way to get a hold of you? What's the best way for someone to experience the way obviously I was lucky enough to meet you in person. I heard your presentation and said, hey, that's something I want to be involved in. But what's the best way for somebody to go and find out about CDR? Yeah.
You can visit our websites. We have just CDRcompanies.com, and that'll break you down to the other two websites, CDR-U.com or CDR Assessment Group. So any of those, you're welcome to connect with me on LinkedIn, Nancy E. Parsons. And my email address is nparsons@cdrcompanies.com. So yeah, I'd love to hear from people. I just presented at a Global Women's Tech Conference yesterday, and I got a bunch of LinkedIn messages, and it was great. I love that follow-up and how can I help? So that was based on my book and research on women in leadership and the glass ceiling. So that's another side of the work that we do, is helping women, particularly with their risk factors, so that they are visible and they don't lose their promotability, that sort of thing.
Well, I want to finish on a really great note, because in the pre-show, we talked about a big event you just had in your life. Little Cole, is it your grandson?
Yeah.
Just had his first communion, and you got to fly out to California to be with him, right?
Right. So here it is, St. Isadora in Danville, California. Yeah, I was out there. It was beautiful. It was a beautiful ceremony. And that's the little cowboy we see in the background, right? Yes, that's my cowboy right there.
I love it. Well, Cole, congratulations on your first communion. Congratulations on having a great grandma. I'm sure, when in another interview, we'll have to talk about Nancy's kids. They're all amazing and have done great things. She's a great mom, great wife, great CEO and leader, and a tremendous coach. So it's been a pleasure to have you on the show, Nancy, to share some of your wisdom with Why Not leaders around the world who are ready to lead different, try something new and different, and try and work with their clients at a deeper level. So what do you say we end the show on that note?
Why not?
Thank you so much, Nancy. I look forward to continuing to work with you. Thank you for being on the show and sharing your wisdom.
Thank you, Dan. I really appreciate it.
Subscribe now. Discover a new era of leadership. Lead different because great leaders change the world.